Simply put, all is right in my world. What I mean by that is I am back to running, and also running in a way that it feels like I'm actually running. But what I will say though is I'll say running with an asterisk. Let me get into a little bit of what my running has looked like over the last week, and also what it's going to look like in the next 3 weeks. I can't really talk about running without also talking about the rest of my plan. So today I'm going to go over what I did this past week for running, but then as well as what I did for my bike workouts and also my recovery. Remember, the most important thing in terms of the changes that I made was allocating the time needed for a warm-up and for a cool down. When I say a warm-up, I'm talking about doing some type of quick primer. So I do 3 different exercises, one thing to improve flexibility, one thing to improve stability, one thing to improve strength. I've been really liking the 1 calf primer that John and I went over because it's a really great way to make sure that I'm kind of firing everything that I need to and still taking care of that, that calf and shin area. Then I do my run, and then I am allocating doing the foam rolling and stretching as part of my recovery. So I have that 10 minutes in the beginning and then 10 minutes at the end, and then whatever I can fit in time-wise for the workout, then I do that. For my recovery, I've been focusing on still my calves, doing some foam rolling through my calves and a dynamic calf stretch. I kind of combine that with a little bit of a hamstring stretch as well. But now that I'm also running, I'm prioritizing working on my quads and also my glutes as well. So I'll alternate between foam rolling and stretching for that area. And again, I set a timer. So I kind of like that urgency of saying, like, I only have 10 minutes to do this. Let me make sure that I'm really focused. I think sometimes, you know, when you just have all this available time, then you're more inclined to fill it, but also not necessarily in the most efficient or focused way. So I've been doing that 10-minute primer, doing my run, and then a 10-minute recovery session. My running, I've been breaking it up as a morning run and an evening run. So then that way I'm getting a little bit more recovery time in between the runs, and I'm also doing a little bit more mobility work as well. So for last week, a few of the days, what I did was I would run 2-ish miles in the morning and then 2-ish miles in the evening. If you know me, you know that I live close to work. So a lot of times I will run to work or kind of add on a little bit. And then I'll also run home as well. I'm really trying to make sure though that I don't exceed a weekly mileage of more than 20 miles because it really hasn't been that long that I've been running. Now, I'll say though that I've been doing this 20 miles with a little bit of a caveat though, because I'm not running exactly 4 miles or 5 miles at one shot. That's totally different, or it's at least substantially different than running 2 miles in the morning, 3 miles in the evening time, because I have a longer recovery period. So I don't get some of that cumulative fatigue. So that's where, if you really miss running, that's where you can kind of get away with doing a little bit more because you have a little bit more of that recovery time. Now, the thing though that's guiding me are my symptoms, right? So if I am kind of feeling like, you know, my calf, I'm definitely feeling that a little bit more, then that's when I would say, oh, okay, I might not run necessarily in the afternoon. So this time for these next 4 weeks, this is really going based off of my body, right? And you know, they always say like, listen to your body. What does that mean, right? I'm kind of going based off of what does it feel like when I'm running? How do I feel after? Am I feeling really sore? Do I feel that aching in my bone? Anything like that? That's what's going to dictate a little bit of what I do. Now, because I don't want to run, say, only 2 miles in one day, then I've also been supplementing that with a shorter bike workout. So it might be a total of 30 or 40 minutes, and I've been focusing on that anaerobic work. So doing a lot more things like sprints, because now for my running, I'm doing, it's like kind of more of like a base, like low aerobic effort. So I'm kind of making sure that I kind of round that out. When I'm running, the thing that I'm focusing on is keeping my heart rate pretty low, because again, I don't want to tax my body too much. It's just getting used to running again. And this is a really important point and something that I've been talking to my patients about a lot, because it's something that I'm always reminded of once I take some time off from running, is that your body has to get used to running again. You know, it has to get used to some of that impact because it's not used to what we call like a ground reaction force. So it's like I land on the ground and the force of the ground pushes back up at me and then my body has to respond to that. I haven't been getting that when I've been on the bike. So I noticed too, I'm just a lot more tired, and I kind of just feel some more like aches in general. So, before 20 miles in a week would be nothing for me. It'd be like a recovery week or barely feeling like I'm doing anything. In this case, this feels a little bit more like, oh yeah, okay, this is definitely pretty substantial. Hence the reason why that like 2 times a day of doing some of that recovery work has been really helpful for me, because my body's tired. I ran 5 miles on Saturday and then 6 miles on Sunday, and I was like definitely feeling, I did move a house in between there, so that kind of probably complicated matters a little bit. But the thing though is that I was definitely really tired. So I've just been letting my body adjust to that. And these are 2 points, like 2 mental points that I want to focus on. Number 1, it's going to be more physically challenging to run at first, and that's going to kind of mess with you mentally, right? That it's like, wow, before this never really felt like anything. So just like kind of reframing that a little bit, that it's like, no, this is just a physiologic response. My body just has to get used to running again. Then the second one that kind of is related is not comparing a former self to a current self, right? So a former self of mine was easily running, 45, 50 miles in a week at a much faster pace. There's no use, right? In kind of, it's useful in kind of saying, hey, I've done this before, but is it useful right now in terms of setting this benchmark of where I kind of need to be right now? No, absolutely not, because it's more so saying, okay, here's what I'm kind of dealing with right now, and then let me just focus on that. So what I'll say is that it's important to keep in mind that running when you first start again is going to be more challenging. And whether that's running or doing any other type of activity, your nervous system has to catch up with your body. So even though I've been doing all these like really hard bike workouts, my heart rate has been really great. I feel actually really conditioned. The thing is that my body just has to get used to the act of running again. And secondly, you're just going to be so much better off if you're not comparing a previous self to a current self. That's going to be really challenging. That's one of the things that I talk to my patients about the most. But just know though that it's like you're working toward being able to do some of those things you had done, and continue to orient yourself to that. That it's like, okay, this is my goal. In order to get to that goal, I have to embrace this current self that I am. For the next 4 weeks, I'm going to continue to do this mix of running probably 2 times a day, and I might start to like increase a little bit more of that morning run, and just to kind of see a little bit of how I feel. Without a doubt, I'm righting my wrong in that I'm going to be doing the recovery work after I'm done running or doing a bike workout. I'm also going to continue with my bike workouts because right now my runs are supposed to be easy, right? This is just my body just getting used to doing what it's supposed to. So when I want some more of that high aerobic work or that anaerobic work, I'm going to get on the bike to do those workouts. This is where I was talking about, was that like I'm really going to kind of like marry those two, so then I can get more out of it. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remind myself that that the steps that I'm taking now are going to be for a better future, and to look at like a past self as a benchmark of what I'm trying to be isn't really useful, right? Because the thing is that I'm going to be a different runner now in the future, a runner that like takes more time doing the recovery that she should, has a little bit more balanced workouts in terms of mixing it up with doing bike workouts and running workouts and being a little bit more specific. I'm taking my time as well. So over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to like slowly increase my mileage. But I'm going to top out though at about 30 miles. Before I was doing like substantially more. But the thing though is that I'm also going to focus on a little bit more of like some quality runs. So I'm going to check in another 2 weeks. By that point, I should be starting to do I would suspect I'd be starting to do some speed workouts, and then I'll kind of let you know a little bit of what my training looks like. It's been really fun for me to share this like recovery process. Partially, it's been helpful for me mentally, right? And it's been really great just having like so many of my patients tell me that they've been like following along, and then also the things that I'm saying are resonating with them. That's why I do this. So if I can be any help in terms of kind of saying, because this is where it gets a little tricky, this phase of like kind of re-entry into running, this is where it gets kind of tricky. So if I can be of any help in terms of asking some questions, if I can answer them, then I'm happy to. So thanks again so much, guys, for following along in this journey of mine.